Crescent. And I think he has described it as a way of overcoming some of the inherent deficiencies for pedestrians and cyclists and people in wheelchairs crossing University Avenue at that intersection. And so I sent him an email just expressing some tentative support and asking him to talk to him about it a little more. And he and I had a phone conversation and talked about it, about it in general terms, and I think agreed that it had several benefits, not only from public safety perspective, but also with the trail that UPI is in the process of constructing from the Confederation Trail across the top of the UPI campus that would come out around Inman Crescent. If there was an underpass there, then it would allow people to go from the Confederation Trail all the way over to the Hermitage Creek Trail that goes behind Charlottetown Rural and comes out on North River Road. So it would be one of those pieces of glue that would connect two existing trail networks together, which I thought was a good thing as well. So I suggested, Councillor Tweel asked for my support, and I said, well, the best way that I could offer support or discussion would be to bring it forward to the task force, either for discussion, or we may, I suppose, decide to invite Councillor Tweel to talk about it in more detail. So I'm just, that is my role, is just simply highlight it, bring it forward, and suggest that we have some way of considering it.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea to do it, and if that was the first one to be done, that would also show it's a positive step forward that we could use that out towards the Upton Farm across the road.
Yeah, Councillor Tweel did indicate he'd had conversations with Minister Myers, Minister of Public Works, and had some tentative support there in terms of a provincial contribution. So there does appear to be a head of steam developing.
Good.
I think it's a great idea.
Do we want to then invite perhaps Councillor Tweel to come to our next meeting and speak to it?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, well, I will commit to doing that then, because he is nominally the councillor to whom I am the liaison through Parks and Recreation. So I will approach him about coming to, I guess, what would be our July meeting, assuming we're all still here in July.
Now I have a question about that thing as well. And some of the previous meetings we had when we were at the city, they were talking about like an underpass in that same area. Is that the same one that you're talking about, or is this different from that initial one that we were? I don't know if it was in that area. I kind of thought it was like around that area, or am I thinking of a different place?
I think you might be thinking of the underpass that we were talking about at Maypoint Road and Capitol Drive, kind of out by the roundabout in West Royalty or near West Royalty.
Yeah, up farmland there.
But again, like if you think about, as Jason was saying, if you think about this underpass as being a kind of a gateway drug for that underpass, and also another, like when you think about that underpass, some sort of way of bridging the gap between North River Road and the Beach Grove trails, then all of a sudden we've got an unimpeded route from Confederation Trail at UPI all the way to the Confederation Trail north of Smoky Hollow.
Mm.
Yeah, so this one, the Mitchell one, that would be the first one, and it definitely, yeah, it will be good to hear from them on next month for it. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, I will do that.
And next, it says scheduled appearance by David Sims with task force regarding his concerns.
That, I think, Ryan, Mayor Brown sent you and I an email back in March or April. He had received a letter from David Sims asking to speak to our task force about some ideas he had about, I think it was about cycling specifically. And I think on Teams I had put forward the idea that we might invite him to do that, and we were going to consider that at our next meeting.
Yeah, and I've talked to him briefly too, and he wants to definitely contribute ideas towards it for cycling, and he'd be a great person to invite. And I mentioned it last time at our test meeting, and so we're putting it forward. I would like to call a motion that we invite him next time, or maybe with one with Mitchell Chuil as well, if we can do two.
I think we could fit two in.
Yeah.
I think it would be good, actually. I think the projects would kind of dovetail. I'd like to hear what David has to think about the underpass, and I'd like to hear what Councillor Chuil thinks about David Sims' ideas. So I think that would be good to have them at the same meeting.
Okay. So I will get in touch with him and tell him about this meeting. For the next meeting, I'll get a hold of him to tell him about it.
Ramona, had we set a date as far ahead as July 2020 on the meeting calendar?
I believe we have. I'm pretty sure it's in the calendar for the second Tuesday of the month, which would be, so
Yes, it is.
July, what do you have, July 7th or July 14th? I think it's July 14th. Yeah, that's what I have in the calendar.
Okay. I will invite you for that date. Would you anticipate, Ramona, given the way the wind is blowing, that would likely be a WebEx meeting in July as well?
It's really about the capacity. So all of us can meet. It's just that we can't have any guests because we have a capacity of 8 in that room. So that's the kind of challenge,
So
I guess.
can we meet anywhere that can take more than 8?
I think it's still a month away, so I would say it's still up in the air. I guess there's a possibility we could meet in person.
Okay. Well, I'll raise, when I'm talking to Councillor Chuil, I'll raise both possibilities, and I'm sure that would be fine.
I'll do the same. It'd be nice to meet in person as well.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows with all this condition.
Ramona, does the possibility exist to, if we were able to be physically present, is there some ability to involve the public remotely? Like, can we WebEx if we're all in the same place?
Yeah, so I guess the only thing I can think of is if, like, we had council meeting last night, so if you were all in council chambers because they've spread the desks out so that you can all be in there, so if you all sat at one of the councilors' desks, there is video capability in this room to take a video of it, and there's mics. So I think so. I don't know if they're allowing other groups to use this room for that purpose, but I could look into that. But yes, okay. in that scenario, you would be able to have people watch online because we have the video in here.
Okay.
Okay. So I think we got that one done. Next one is city liaison assignments for task force members.
I had suggested that on the agenda. If you'll recall, last year we each agreed to take on working with a different line department in the city, a different councillor and a different set of public servants. And I thought it might be appropriate, because we are a year in now, to review whether that's still a good idea and whether we're still all happy with our assignments. I'm the liaison to Parks and Recreation. I'm happy to continue doing that for the future.
And I'm the liaison for the police department, and I'm happy to do that. I do a lot of chatting with the bylaw officer, so that works. That seems to work well. If anything comes up, like, he actually reached back to me at one time. So, yeah, I have no problem continuing that.
I know my schedule has gotten a lot busier than I thought it would be, especially with work and everything that's gone on with me. So I can work in a limited capacity, but I don't know if somebody else wants to take that on or not. It might be better served by somebody else.
It's Public Works, I think, for you.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
And Jason, you do cycling PEI too, right?
Yeah, I check in with Mike every once in a while. I haven't heard from him in a little bit. I can check in with him again here shortly, see if there's anything coming out of him. Last time I checked in with him, I think was around the road signage issue. Just kind of to go off on that for a second, has there been anything been done as far as, like, I know they were talking before, like contracts and stuff like that. Has there been any change with that?
Yeah, so Mike gave the final product and we have it. It does need to be put into the RFP format. I've been a little behind, like on purchasing. We did have like a period of time where we weren't allowed to release any RFPs or do any purchasing, but that's opening back up again. So there's nothing outstanding from Mike. It's more on our end now to get that out and get the order completed.
Okay.
It's Joanne speaking. I'm happy with environment and sustainability to continue in that role. Or if somebody wanted to switch, I'm happy to give that up. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm happy to have you there, Joanne.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm kind of, I'm not, because I'm the chair, I'm not sure if I was assigned one or not. I'd like to, I don't know if there'd be documents that has everybody who's assigned to who. It'd be nice to see that.
I think it was in the minutes of the meeting that we decided it, which was probably July or August of last year, I'm going to take a guess.
Well, I had the notes, and Jason was Public Works, Parks and Rec were Peter, Margaret was Police, I was Environment and Sustainability, Carrie was the liaison person with Bike Friendly Charlottetown, and we had Heather as the liaison with UPEI because they were starting a new program with borrowing bikes or sharing bikes with newcomers or new students. And so you're right, Jason, Ryan, we didn't give you something there. But I'm sorry, did I understand? Jason, you don't want to be Public Works anymore?
I haven't been investing the time like I wanted to, so I don't mind if somebody either wants to help out with that or if they want to take it over, that would be fine too. My workload at work and from what I'm doing, it's been more than I expected it to be in the last year.
I could probably help you with it, definitely.
Yeah, if you want to do that, that would be great.
Like, what all will it really entail? Like, talking to...
Mostly, like, dealing, like, just interfacing, and I know one thing with Public Works, like, it's one of those things where we have, you know, they're kind of user-facing issues, right? And I know that there's been some stuff filled out on the team side of some of the issues that are around that we could bring up to the Public Works side.
Like, is that kind of in the way where, like, if I seen some like, lip on the sidewalk that needs to be repaired, like, I could bring it to Public Works and let them know about it? Is that kind of...
I think the idea when we discussed this was rather than having each of us, call the Director of Public Works independently, let's put stuff in teams as we experience it. So if I see something like along the lines of what you're talking about, I'd add it to that issue section in Teams, and then you would, the next time you're talking to the Director of Public Works, you could bring those things forward, and it makes a single point of contact.
Okay.
It's probably good for you too, Ryan, because I know that you see quite a bit of things, I think, that might affect you and have more of an understanding of how it affects other people. Because I know you've said to me on a few occasions where you've seen something and, you know, you said how it was difficult to navigate, that type of thing.
Yeah.
It might be good if you had a chat with, you know, somebody at Public Works and maybe they could understand that a little better.
Exactly. I think you're right there too, because I already found a couple full there, so just gathering them up and writing them down. So basically, I'm writing the issues in teams for us to look at, and then the issue I would bring it to the members of the public works to discuss them with them, and then bring my findings back to the meeting itself.
Yeah. The other thing too, Ramona, I think you said that the city now is all on Office 365.
Yes. Yep.
Does the Public Works Manager use Teams? He should have it by default if he doesn't use
Yeah,
it.
no, he has it for sure. I don't know if he's like I have mine open every day and I use it within our group, but I don't know if he
Right.
actively uses it or not. I'm not sure.
Because it's something that we could invite him into that area of Teams to kind of see the board of things that are there. And, you know, that way, as soon as we post them, he would have access to that information.
Yeah, this is kind of like a technology question, I guess, too. And I've spoken to our IT department. So it's not like with Slack where you can have like multiple channels. Like when
You can, yes, you can.
Okay. So yeah, so kind of what I've been doing is I have my work Office 365 through the app on my desktop, and then I have to like go online and log in to view the team that we have.
So what I've done on my phone, like when I open up my Teams app, I've added, like for my work, I have my work on there, and then I added the group as well. And it combines basically both into one, so you can see multiple groups and teams.
Okay.
So it is possible if you want to do that. Like you can have them in the same program.
Just so that I'm clear, are we, Ryan, are you taking over Public Works from Jason, and Jason, you're sticking with Cycle PEI, or are you and Ryan going to share the Public Works as well?
I'm fine with cycling PEI. If Ryan wants to work with me, I can, or he could take it over. It's whatever he's comfortable with.
Yeah, like, I'm comfortable taking it over, but, like, it might be a good, thing to do both on. Just, it seems like it's good to have an able-bodied eye and a paraplegic body eye kind of on it. I don't know if that's...
No, I think that makes... Yeah, we can both work on it.
Yeah. I think that's good as well.
Ramona, is there anything we should know as the liaisons about changes in how the city is working and better ways to contact or not contact, or can we just go on as we always have had?
I did get some feedback from the chair that the liaison kind of position was a little bit challenging. He found it a bit challenging of a concept in terms of just like we have to make sure we're adhere to our terms of reference. Like if we're making any like recommendations, they really do have to come to the ENS committee before they move forward. So I think we do need to be mindful when we're making those contacts that like questions about the status of a project are fine, like alerting them to things that we see about are fine, but like directing or lobbying for certain things has to go to ENS before it goes directly to that person. So I just would say that. I think emails or calls are kind of the only way we sort of have. I know sometimes they can get sometimes those things can get lost. But it just takes some follow up, and is that what what you mean, Peter? Like just in terms
No,
of...
I think that's good feedback. I think if I think back to the issues that I brought up with Parks and Recreation, they tended to be things that we had talked about or things I'd heard otherwise about potholes or bike repair stations or something, not a proposal to build an underpass. So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's more that sort of idea. I mean, as a resident, people do those, we get those types of emails already. It's more just reminding that any sort of like strategic direction or lobbying sort of activity should kind of go through the committee. But yeah, the way you've been contacting them, I can't think of any other better way. Other than I did think it was good how we had the different managers come in, and maybe that's something we do like every once in a while. We have that check-in with different departments just to kind of keep that relationship going.
I like that. Okay. Is that everything from?
That's
That
what
one?
I had in mind when I put it on the agenda. So
Okay, perfect. And next is the review of Bike Week planned activities.
Okay, so I can give a rundown on what we're sort of moving ahead with. So Bike Week's coming up next week on the June 13th to 20th. Katrina Christel, she took over from Jess Brown for her maternity leave. So she's been putting together a great program for next week. We're calling it a virtual Bike Week. So there's a 5-part series of videos that we'll be releasing by the PEI Bike Guy. So he'll be doing different topics like bike maintenance, how to fix a flat tire, adjusting your brakes, and some safety. We've got a virtual cycling contest. So if they're sharing, people can share photos from their bike ride, and then we'll do a draw for prizes. We also have, there'll be like a mural on the trail that you can have, that you take your picture beside. It's by the farmers market. It'll be going up to try to get people to take their picture as they're out bike riding. There'll be a lot of different social media messages released that week. We have an updated bike map, and we have the Charlottetown Cycling Handbook that we'll be releasing through there. We're doing radio ads with CFCY, and then like last year we had a challenge with the mayor where he had to do like a bike round around the city. This year we have Chris Pride and the mayor will be doing a race around the oval. I think that's on the Sunday, the 19th, and then people will guess who's going to win, and there'll be the prize for that is a bike. And then we're doing Bike to Work Day on June 19th and getting people to post pictures of that. And then we will have the LED message boards coming into the city. They have the COVID messaging on them right now, and then it'll switch over for that week just to remind people of the 1 meter rule for safety. So that'll be coming into the city for any motorists. So I feel like in terms of something that's normally like a very event focused week where we're together a lot, I feel like this is a great alternative option based on having to do everything virtually.
oh, that sounds impressive.
Yes, she's been
Ramona?
busy. Yes.
Question. The signs are already up
Okay,
for
great.
the watching the 1 meter distance around cyclists
Okay.
as you come to Charlottetown. Where would you find the videos?
The videos will be posted on the city's Facebook page next week. So I don't think any of them have been posted yet.
Thank you.
Okay. So, just to recap, whereabouts are these signs?
So
There's one,
yeah, go ahead.
Ryan, as you come down the Brackley Point Road, right before you reach the rotary there at the intersection of Oak and Brackley Point. There's a sign there, one of those, flashing signs to remind you to do the distance. That's the one that I noticed today.
I didn't notice that. I'm thinking of the speed sign on Brackley Point Road that just before Oak, when you're going down there, that gives you the time. But I'm not sure about the other one. I'll have to look for it.
Okay.
Okay, and so like the main gist of this is to keep the social distancing from this. So Like that really has to be a very important piece to this for Bike Week. How is it going to work the best for that?
Well, normally we would have like an event where we would have somebody come and show people how to fix their bike, or we would do the bike rodeo where the kids are all there with the police officers. We would do things like a guided ride where we all go for a bike ride together. So instead of doing that, we're doing more like go for a bike ride, and show us a picture of you on your bike ride, or show us your view on your bike ride. So we're kind of trying to share a love of cycling that way rather than together. So, and then with the race, it's like it'll be videotaped so people can watch the race and they can guess the race even though they won't necessarily be there watching.
Something before I forget, that's a good point with the social distancing Ryan brought up there. I know they've put in those new lights down on Kent Street.
Mm-hmm.
And they put in those push buttons. Why does the city have push buttons to go across on crosswalks? It doesn't seem intuitive to me, because it's a mechanical device that can break down. And, you know, I really think if we want to push healthy living and active lifestyle, I think the default behavior for intersections should be for pedestrians to cross. And if that's the case, you wouldn't need to push a button for a light. Do you know why the city puts those in?
I thought they activated the noise for visually impaired people. Do they not?
Yeah, you might be right there.
I think there's only one of them that I know of. Well, there may be multiple, but there was one at Prince and Houston that had that functionality, but then they turned it off. So because it was disturbing the
Too
neighborhood.
loud?
Yeah.
So do you
I think it would be useful to have. I think that's a valid question, Jason, and I think if that's a question we could pose to the manager of public works, I think that'd be a good thing to hear back from him on.
Ramona, do you know of any reasons why the city does the push buttons?
I don't, Jason. I don't know whether it affects the timing, like if you push it, if it brings the light on quicker, or if it's just meant to, like you said, if the default is that there's no light unless the button is pushed. I don't know the settings on it.
Okay, well maybe Ryan and I can find out then and post back into the group.
The other thing, and I brought this up in Teams, is that at the new lights that you were talking about, Jason, unlike other situations where you can operate it, using your elbow or another part of your body, these you actually have to push your finger into it, which, in terms of COVID contact seems to be backwards. So
just wait until somebody puts some gum in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if hand sanitizer next to it is.
maybe they're hand sanitizer dispensers. Maybe that's what it's for.
right.
Okay. Is there any other concerns for Bike Week?
No.
Well, I'll just throw this in there. The pedestrian crosswalk at the Towers Road, that a person was hit last fall by a vehicle. Many cyclists use that to go from, on the Confederation Trail. And it's kind of surprising that they painted in the pedestrian crosswalk on McAleer Drive. They did a beautiful job. And they've painted all of the crosswalks around the Charlottetown Mall, and they did a beautiful job. But they did not do the crosswalk across the Confederation Trail. So cyclists, jump off their bikes or whatever. Like, it would be very timely that the pedestrian crosswalks be painted as a priority.
Isn't that a private road?
Not
anymore.
Okay.
Well, if you want to mention that, thank you.
Okay.
What street is that?
It's called the Towers Road. And
It's that road in behind the mall that the trail crosses.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm also concerned about that road just going down it. Like, I know someday there'll be a sidewalk, but it can be tricky going down that road as well. But I will get that through there. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. And moving on to the last issue piece on the agenda, bike-friendly Charlottetown update.
Yeah, so it's been a while now, but our big event we held at the Brewing Company was really successful. It was one of the last things to happen before everybody sort of realized how serious this virus was and everything got shut down. So we were all a little nervous afterwards that, you know, that we had unknowingly kind of created a big super spreader event, but thankfully that didn't happen. So we sneaked in right before, you know, all the rest of us. We got so much wonderful feedback that we are still taking some time to go through and figure out how best to use it and communicate it. We kind of took a little break while things were closed down, but we have been meeting over the last month pretty regularly, and we have a few more community, like social things planned. We're going to, we're actually working on a video series ourselves. We had kind of started planning that before we heard about the cities, but we're gonna hopefully, ours will kind of just dovetail and, I don't know, work well with the city one to create more cycling resources. Some of which, like some of the ideas we floated are things like, you know, how to plan your route in the city and actually going to some of the places where there are paths that you can take that people may not know about. So if there are any things, if anyone has any thoughts or ideas that they think would be a good idea for us to cover, we're going to work on that over the summer. And we're also starting, we're going to start kind of a social media showcase of, what are we calling it? The BFC BFFs, bike friendly friends. What? Bike friendly? I forget what it is. Anyway, we're going to feature some local people who are on their bikes, kind of like a Humans of New York. Have you ever seen that on Facebook or anything?
Yeah.
Except that we're just going to ask people to submit it themselves, and they can talk a little bit about like their cycling story. We have some like questions for suggestions. We're going to go public with this probably in the next week. And we're starting to collect a few. I think Peter has contributed already, I've heard, which is awesome. Thank you, Peter. And if anybody else would like to, our hope with this series is to showcase cyclists from all different abilities, experiences, backgrounds, ages, like cultures, everything, all walks of life, to kind of hopefully get people to see like, oh, if they're doing it, then I can do it too. Kind of thing. So that's our thinking. And we're still staying in contact with the different groups. I mean, figuring out what comes next now that everything is different. But so that's where we're at. And if there are ways that we can support the work of the task force, or if there is a role that we could fill in that way, please let me know. Because we would love to, you know, continue working towards all these good things that we're working on. There.
If the fact that I couldn't get an appointment to get my bike serviced at McQueen's because there were 70 bikes ahead of me is any indication, cycling has taken off.
It has, and like it's kind of, it is exciting and sort of like how do we keep that momentum going, I guess. So
Good.
I have a concern. Just you mentioned about cycling resources. Like, how do you mean by that? In my mind, I kind of think of like somewhere there's like a road map and it has like a banner or something embedded in the ground that has like stuff about cycling for people to see that may be cycling already. Like, is that kind of what you mean, or am I, or is that like an idea? Or I'm not quite sure what you mean with the cycling resources.
Well, so far what we've got on the table are some, like a video series, that would be on YouTube and Facebook, about different aspects of cycling around Charlottetown. So far it's the video series on the table. We actually, our map, if you were at the event at the Brewing Company, or if anybody was, there's a really big map that Mitch had printed that lives in his apartment now, and he's so proud of this really big map of all of the cycling paths that are actually like dedicated paths, and it also includes, I think, all of the proposed paths and all of the ones that are in the works and that sort of thing. And so he's made a PDF version that we want to make available for people. Now, I'll be interested to get my hands on the newer city one that is coming out. Ramona, you said that is coming out with Bike Week, and see how they compare. Because I know that Mitch tried to be really, really thorough and get every single little off the beaten track path he could there.
Yeah. We didn't do a whole lot of updating on the infrastructure side. This year we just had to do we have bike friendly businesses, right? So we had to do some adjusting with that. But I think we probably every 2 years we should be going back and updating the map component. So I may ask to get a look at that map too at some point.
And it's going to be, it's already available publicly, but we want to promote it a bit more. If anybody just wants to use it to plan their route, or you guys can look at it. I think the distinction is that it only includes dedicated paths, rather than, I think the city one has some routes that take you through streets, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, no, absolutely. And those are all great ideas, Carrie. The video series we are doing are very much how to on different, more maintenance and things that you can do at home to kind of get your bike in good shape. But one idea we talked about is highlighting different routes and kind of showing people, and we talked about having the GoPro camera and even putting it on fast forward, because there's so many routes. I know Joanne had talked about the East Royalty trails, and there's so many that people really don't know about. So I think that's a great direction. I'm glad you guys are looking at that.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to come through on that one and get it together in the next, over the summer, I expect. I hope. Just while I'm speaking, I guess, I know at our last meeting that we had in person, there was some talk of the MyoVision cameras and doing some surveying with those, and I'm assuming everything has been pushed back and everything, but is that still on the table for this year, Ramona?
Yeah, no, we'll still do that. That part is fine. So we have a student engineer. We have 3 student engineers, but one of them is traffic engineering is what he's studying. So he's doing all the MyoVision counts. I know you had said you would help me with the design, but I don't there's not really a lot of work to do. It's just I'm going to tell him the dates, and then he'll kind of design it. So I don't really need any support there. But so
will we be able to get the data from that one then?
Yeah, I think we'll share that with this group. There's a lot with the MyoVision. It's a lot of raw data that comes in with it. So we'll have to get him to pull out some insights that we can actually do something with. But maybe Peter, we could tie that in with an open data project too if we wanted to release the raw. It's a lot, but I mean, I'm sure people who know how to do stuff with that could pull out some interesting insights.
That'd be interesting, yeah.
I'm interested to see what the numbers are like compared to, because it'll be 2 years in September. So we'll do the September count, and then I wanted to get a high tourism season count, but I guess we'll just get a mid-season July count, and it won't necessarily be indicative of normal years.
Well, it's a once in a lifetime, hopefully, opportunity to measure what we're measuring without, we know there'll be no tourists there. So it's a baseline.
Yeah.
True.
They have all the MyoVision cameras set up on North River Road. And so we've been getting kind of like weekly reports from that, even to, like, we don't have it from any other gateway into the city, but even to see, like, commuting during COVID and how it's varied. Like it's been creeping back up. It wasn't, last time I saw it wasn't back up to normal, but it was surprising actually how high it was.
I think that's all I have for bike friendly for now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all of the agenda here. I'm just going to ask if anybody has any final concerns. I have a couple here that I would like to just discuss about, and one is going back to Bike Week. Is there going to be any like safety concerns about bikers and traffic, and just making sure that the public knows about it regarding like traffic? Is that going to have to be done as well?
Like, you mean as part of our Bike Week messaging?
Yeah, or like anything, just so that people are aware of it, basically.
Yeah.
That drivers and stuff like that, that's kind of just safety precautions.
I've started seeing ads for it already in social media. So, and I think, would there have been something in the Guardian already, or maybe I'm just seeing them on Facebook?
We didn't put anything in the Guardian, but the province might have. I know they have.
No, I think
No.
it was just social media. So
Okay.
I know there's promotion of it already.
Yeah.
If that helps you, Ryan. And I
Okay.
guess Ramona said there were going to be radio ads.
Yeah, and I don't have any of the scripts, but I mean, we usually try to make it safety as the primary message and fun as the secondary message, sort of thing.
Yeah. Plus the big signs. So
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. That was just one of the questions I had. Does anybody else have any final concerns?
My only concern is some education for bikers. We were actually turning up the road right next to us the other day. There was a cyclist. He had a helmet on. He looked like he had a fairly high-end bike. He was going down the street in the traffic lane that we were turning into, and I had to jam the brakes on the car, and he almost went up over the hood, and I was kind of looking like I don't know if he wasn't paying attention or what he was doing, but I know the one thing that, or just some reminders, I don't know how we can do it, but I just see more and more people, like, I see people going down 10th Street the wrong way on bikes. I see people going down Fitzroy. It's like every one-way street, people are going like the wrong way up the street. And I don't know if there's something, signage or education or what it can be, but it seems to be getting more prevalent. And it's dangerous. It's not so much like, I'm kind of worried for the cyclists, because all it takes is one driver who's not paying attention going down a one-way street to get creamed by a car, you know?
yeah. Carrie, is that something that could go in some of your bike-friendly videos?
Like safety on the street.
Yeah, sure.
I can bring it to the group. We tend to focus on dedicated infrastructure is kind of our thing.
Oh, okay.
However, we also know that people also cycle on the streets. So it would be a good topic to cover. But I will bring that to the group.
That was only my concern, that the guy coming down the road the other day freaked me out pretty bad. So
Yeah.
I just didn't know if there was any kind of educational component that could be kind of put out there to have people.
Yeah. Jason, I'll interrupt. It's Joanne. I've been concerned about this as well, and I think what I'm going to do is write a letter to curriculum at the Department of Education. From my recollections, I think grade 5 health program has a few pages in the health book on bike safety, and the teachers usually cover it like in May, from what I remember. But it could be introduced into the health program in grades 4, 5, and 6 as a refresher, just on what the bike rules are. So I'll ask what the province has. Start with that first, and I'll get back to you on that. Would that be okay?
Yeah, I mean, any little thing I think can help. That was my only concern. I'm good otherwise.
Well, I can speak from the police department is that they used to, they had a lot more boots on the ground in terms of education and stopping people and whatnot. And what I found out is that they don't seem to have, as much, it fell into kind of the bylaw officer role, and that's a one-person position. And from what I can find out, the majority of that is dealing with, tenant garbage, moving out, like that type of thing. So it seems that, again, I think I did address this previously, is it goes back to the human resources and about having enough people working, to be able to address these things. And so, if you're on patrol, do you see someone without a bike helmet? Do you just stop? If you see someone driving the wrong way in the street, do you stop? So is that really something that's, they're being like, hey, we had a lot of complaints about cyclists at this time, keep an eye out and don't hesitate to stop and address it.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they had some way to address that stuff and not necessarily like punishing people, but to be like, hey, you're going on the road the wrong way. Do you realize this could be really bad for you? And the person. Yeah,
just sort of a soft engagement.
Yeah.
With the officers, and I think when COVID, I couldn't believe I saw people in my neighborhood I never saw before in my life. And people on bikes, and not one or two, it was families of people on bicycles, where the little kid driving the bike, I think, was like, they're young, they're 3, 4, years old type of thing. So what I found out is that's what I was kind of told, is that there's just not a lot of human resources. And when COVID hit, again, everybody was taken off, put on shift.
Yeah.
But we had no bylaw officer. At a really crucial time when people were buying the bikes up, going everywhere around, there was no bylaw officer on the day-to-day. So, we certainly, it was kind of all hands on deck there. But
it'd be kind of neat, too, if, like what you're saying, and I just thought, if the city could have some materials printed up and dropped off to the bike shop, so when somebody purchases a new bike, they get kind of a kit. To say, here's some tips, here's some do's and don'ts, how to stay safe, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, or if it comes from the city, or like the bike friendly, can you apply through, carry through, I don't know, like innovation through the marketing, there's a lot of funding.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just on that, we have we did a limited print of our okay, video just cut out. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I can see you and hear you.
Okay. We did a limited print of the cycling handbooks, and so we're going to provide those to the bike shops. and we were looking at doing an abbreviated version because it's a little big to give to everybody. We're going to have them available there, but we talked about having that like the kit you're kind of referring to, Jason, just like a bike map and just kind of some rules of the road and some basics on helmet wearing and bike maintenance and that type of thing.
It'd be kind of neat if there was like some kind of like a little placard that if it was like, you know how you can take paper and you put them in those heat seal machines to put kind of the coating on it?
Yes.
If on one side it had like a map or something like that, and it showed here's a fix-it station, here's this, here's that, and then on the other side it could have like some rules of the road, like just some, you know, like little things that, because that way every time you pull it out, or if they could, you know, if you could stick it to your bike, or I don't, if it's basically, I guess what I'm saying, if it's watertight, you know, they could have that like kind of on their bike frame or something around that, or even if it's a sticker that you could wrap around your frame or something, and that could have some of that kind of stuff just to give a reminder.
No, I think it's a good idea too. I'll just make a note to check with Katrina on that because I can't remember. We had that conversation. I just don't remember what was next step on that.
And Canadian Tire, and does Sport Check still sell bicycles? Like that might be.
I don't think so. I haven't. Sport Check selling bikes. Since they changed their location, I haven't noticed.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they do. They
They
have
do?
bike gear. Oh yeah, no, yeah, I'm pretty sure they have bikes still.
I'm just thinking that those are other accessible places where families might purchase bikes.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Canadian Tire and things, that we should have the literature down in that area as well. Even if Canadian Tire gave a basket that you could, with a sign, take one, something like that. Because I think when you look at the bike shops, you're catering, like the bike Outer Limits Sports and the bike and McQueen's, you're catering to a pretty sophisticated cyclist and not necessarily your family type.
Yeah, well, you're essentially going to be preaching to the converted already, so you need to go to the places where it's the entry level. That's being Canadian Tire and Walmart and those places, and people are getting their CCM bikes.
Right. Agreed. So it's just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, it is a good idea, Joanne. Thank you.
I think that's it, is it?
Yeah, I guess that's it. If anybody has anything else. Okay, well, I guess that's the adjournment, closing of this meeting here. It only went an hour. That's pretty good here. So, when will we find out about next meeting, or is it tentatively scheduled for this July 15th at 6 p.m. if we don't hear any word from this
Ryan, sorry to interrupt. Excuse me. It's Tuesday, July 14th.
Oh, 14th. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I put the 15th, so okay. Okay, perfect. Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, second.
Okay, well, there we go. It was a good meeting. Meeting's adjourned.
Great. See you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. Have a good summer.
All right. See ya. See you next meeting.